Wake up! It's the Sleep Unplugged podcast, episode 189, Insomnia Electronics. Electricity so fine. Welcome everyone to the Sleep Unplugged podcast. My name is Chris Winter. I'm a neurologist, sleep specialist, and your host for this episode of the podcast. If you're new to the Sleep Unplugged podcast family, welcome. If you're a veteran, welcome back. We are so glad you're here. If you want to get in touch with the show and tell us what electronics you use to help with your sleep, let us know. Dr. Chris Winter Instagram, Dr. Chris Winter Twitter X, Dr. Chris Winter Blue Sky Threads. We have a dedicated YouTube page for the podcast, which will be helpful this week because we do have more visual. I'm actually wearing on my forehead, on my wrist, and holding in my other hand three of the products we're going to be talking about in this podcast, so that might be helpful to see a little bit, although I'll try to describe as well as I can with my language for this podcast. Comments, corrections, criticisms. We're going to jump right into that. My first correction and criticism is about a Forbes article that came out recently that a few of you sent to me, and I appreciate that. It was entitled, "A Holy Grail Sleep Apnea Pill Could Be on the Market Next Year." Within the advertisement of that article, it said, hey, the very first sleep apnea pill could be just, a year away. So and this was an article, January 12th, 2026 in Forbes, written by Amy Feldman. I did reach out to Amy Feldman and to express a few of my concerns, which are, number one, we need to be careful with using terms like Holy Grail. This is a drug that we've talked about in episodes before. Episode 157, we talked about sleep apnea pills and weight loss that might improve people's sleep apnea by about 47%. Great. I'm all for that. I think it's exciting. I can think of clinical utility for that. However, when we improve somebody's pretty bad sleep apnea by 47%, they go from having really, really bad sleep apnea to kind of bad sleep apnea and still needing some sort of therapy for their sleep apnea. So we have to be very careful to be completely transparent about this, what this drug can and cannot do. I don't think a lot of people are going to be very excited to spend a bunch of money on a pill and be told, wow, your sleep apnea is better, but you still need a CPAP. Somebody who has 2200 vision, improving their vision by 47%, they still have 2110 vision and need glasses to drive a car. So Holy Grail, let's wait on that term. I'm thinking Holy Grail for some of these new narcolepsy or orexin 2 receptor. I think they, based upon the research they've done, might be able to say that. But even then, we need to hold off on our judgment. Second thing is, we already have a sleep apnea FDA approved pill. We've had it for years. It's Zepbound, the weight loss drug. That drug improved people's sleep apnea to the point of no longer needing therapy for their sleep apnea in 55% of patients. So it's like Zepbound saying to Apnimed, hold my beer, I'm going to go cure the sleep apnea. I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of sleep apnea left over when you come out a year from now for you to even treat. I'm joking here, but there is a potential here for, so Zepbound is curing sleep apnea in 55% of people, which means it's not in 45% of people. Well, maybe the people who it doesn't cure but improves could use Apnimed to take them the rest of the way. So with a lot of conversation here, but it frustrates me when media people who should do their research and know better keep saying the first FDA approved pill for sleep apnea. No, it's not. It will be the second at best. And the other thing that worth mentioning, Apnimed is the combination of Strattera, atomoxamine at 75 milligrams, and oxybutynin, sometimes called ditropan, 5 milligrams. Those are two generic drugs that you could buy with a prescription today for a combined total of about $30. I looked it up right before I did this podcast. So I'll be really curious to see how excited people are to pay a lot of money for two drugs that could get quite cheap. It's sort of like coconut water and ginger. Well, I've got coconut water and I've got a juicer, and I'm getting, I'm expressing the juice out of ginger, mixing it with coconut water and selling it for $100 a bottle. At some point, somebody might figure out, well, I could just buy some coconut water and some ginger at the store and make my own. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. Want to do, since we have so many sponsors recently, I wanted to do a quick shout out to a listener who wrote, this is MJ, who wrote, I have a busy life and need to get things done. But when my alarm clock goes off, I struggle hard. I have put alarms clear down the stairs, set up stations like hydration stations, movement stations, just about everything you can think of to stay awake. But I will literally go around and turn everything off and go back to bed. I exercise in the morning, so this, of course, causes me to miss workouts. It's terrible. And it's like this after 8, 9, or even 10 hours of sleep. I hate it. I'm trying to get straight in the shower this week and do meditation. It's a big struggle. Am I lazy? Is there something wrong with my mind? Hey, I enjoy the music part of your podcast. Big fan, with Bowie being my favorite. Well, thanks, MJ. Two things for you. Number one, I think what you're describing sounds a lot like sleep inertia. And we talked about sleep inertia on episode 73 of the podcast. Number two, one of the products that I'm wearing this week and talking about, the Pavlok, I think could be perfect for you as another thing you could add to your routine. So hopefully those two things are helpful. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast. I'm glad you appreciate the music. Speaking of the music, this week's episode, musical reference, Electricity So Fine, is from the Joe Jackson song Stepping Out off of his fifth album, Night and Day, which was released in 1982, I believe. His first two albums, Look Sharp and I'm the Man, were both in 79. Look Sharp had Is She Really Going Out With Him? Great song. And I'm the Man had It's Different for Girls, which is also an incredible song. I just got goosebumps thinking about that song. I think it's such a good song. Uh, Night and Day also had this song Breaking Us in Two. What I love about this is, number one, Electricity So Fine, great reference that goes along with our podcast. Number two, Night and Day. What a great circadian sleep title for an album. And the whole album is really an exploration of 24 hours in New York City. So when you buy the album, if you have the vinyl, side A is not called side A, it's called Night, and you flip it over, and the back side of the album is called Day. So if you're a sleep fan like I am, you've got to have the album Day and Night in your collection. So I love Stepping Out. It's a great song. It's such a meditation on that sort of restlessness energy that happens in New York. One of the things I love about New York City is 2 in the morning, if you want a piece of pizza, you want a little company and be around some people, you can find them. The city never sleeps, literally. And so, well, I think that can be dangerous in the wrong hands. It's wonderful for somebody who just wants a little bit of movement of their body at a weird time at night. So you run down to Soho and get some rice to riches, rice pudding in the middle of the night because they're open 24 hours a day. Always something to do. Speaking of Soho, actually, not too far away from Rice to Riches is Blue Rock, the studio, which is where this was produced. Blue Rock also was a place that U2 recorded there. Obviously, Joe Jackson. I looked up to see if David Bowie had ever recorded there. He had not, but Lester Bowie, the famous trumpet player, actually recorded there as well too. So the Kinks were another group that recorded down at Blue Rock in Soho. So anyway, we're going to add Stepping Out to the Spotify music playlist. We are coming ever closer to the end of volume 4. So download Spotify music playlist volumes 1, 2, 3, and 4 onto your phone so you can listen along to the music we talk about. So let's get into the podcast. This is an interesting one. I want to thank very quickly, we don't have sponsors for this podcast, but I do want to thank Everything Branding and the people there for sending me the Truvaga. Also want to thank the people at Truvaga. Also want to thank the individuals at Max Borges for sending me the Muse. I'm a big fan of Muse and the company Interaxon. I've used their product for a while. So it was really funny when this group came up and said, hey, we represent this client. We wanted to know if you wanted to talk about their new product, the Muse Athena. And I was like, sure. So let's talk about it. And then I don't remember where I got the Pavlok from that I'm wearing. This is the Pavlok 2. We'll talk about them all here. So again, we've talked about vagal nerve stimulators about a year ago, a little bit longer in the podcast. That was in episode 137. So, sort of want to build upon that conversation that we started. I know you're thinking, wait a minute, electronics for sleep, that doesn't make any sense. Don't electronics make you stay awake and make you struggle more with your sleep? And we could have gone in a lot of different directions. We could have talked about the AO that shines light in your eyes. We could have talked about the Oslo earbuds. We can talk about the yoga sleep sound machine, which we will talk about in a future episode. But I wanted to focus on these three episodes to kind of keep the podcast more narrow and maybe more of a conversation about stuff that we haven't really talked about to begin with. So yes, I can understand where you think, wait a minute, electronics, aren't they going to lead to more hyperarousal and contribute negatively to a sleep or insomnia problem? This is, of course, Insomnia Monday, so we always like to talk about insomnia. I would say no, that I think you should think about these products, particularly the ones we're talking about in this episode, as nudging your physiology closer to the place where maybe sleep is freer to happen. Do I think any of these devices are going to knock you out? No. So if you're watching a video of somebody holding a device to their vagus nerve and it's making them literally fall over with sleep, I would move past that page in a hurry. That's not what we're talking about here. We are talking about, again, nudging physiology towards the place where you're likely to engage with sleep in a little bit of an easier fashion. We're trying to teach a skill, self-regulate. We are working on reducing the performance anxiety that goes along with insomnia or oversleeping or doom scrolling or missing workout. So we're going to separate FDA cleared from a wellness device from a behavioral training tool, because I think a lot of times we confuse those things. And these devices, I believe, are perfectly safe. The Truvaga is FDA cleared, and we're going to talk about what that means in terms of effectiveness for your insomnia. So let's start with the Truvaga. If you're looking on YouTube, you can see this is a device about the size of a hockey puck. You can pop the top off, turn it on with a little button, and you can see that there are two silver electrodes, surfaces about 1.5 inches apart. And when you apply it to your vagal nerve area after spraying some electrode solution skin prep to the side of your neck, and you start the device with your app, you can adjust the timing and intensity with your app. You start to feel electrical impulses. I was feeling it. You are definitely going to feel something. So the idea that you're putting this thing on your neck, like, I don't feel anything here, you're definitely going to feel something. In fact, it was sort of activating my, I think it's my platysma. Is that the name of that muscle underneath your neck? Or maybe a little bit of my trapezius here and my muscles around my neck. It was definitely activating them. And the electricity coming from this thing is real. And it's important that you only apply it as directed when you're using it. So the key is you're delivering some electrical impulse deep enough to your vagal nerve to create relaxation. So how does that work? So the vagal nerve, from the Latin for wandering, is cranial nerve 10. So this is a nerve that comes directly off your brain. And as it moves down into your body, it sort of splits, and it's actually innervating all kinds of organs in your body. It is your brain's sort of control switch. It's trying to turn things off. It's trying to move things from threat level high to threat level low. We always talk about, parasympathetic, is sort of reacting. It's fight or flight. This is rest and digest when we're talking about parasympathetic nervous system and the vagal nerve. So the vagal nerve is real. Parasympathetic nerve impulses are real, and manipulations of the vagal nerve are real. For some individuals who have supraventricular tachycardia, their heart starts racing, they can actually massage their carotid bulb and create sort of lower or increased vagal tone that actually tends to downregulate the heart rate. So this is sort of proof that if you touch the right wires, you can create state change. I actually read an article that talked about cardiologists using vagal nerve stimulators for a more effective vagal reduction in heart rate tone. So the modern leap comes with what my first taste of vagal nerve stimulators was when I was in residency and learning about epilepsy and learning about vagal nerve, implantable vagal nerve stimulators to help with certain kinds of epilepsy. These were devices that were actually surgically implanted right onto the vagal nerve to help with people with more refractory epilepsy. So the key question, do these non-invasive neck devices, and there's a bunch of them out there. I really appreciate Truvaga for sending me this one. I like this one. It was very easy to use. It was sort of idiot proof. And if there's ever a device that I can use incorrectly, I will do it. Home sleep testing. Oh, Chris, it's so easy. You just take it home, pop it on, and you'll get a great night of data from your sleep test. I will screw that up. So this was really easy. You charge it with the little C cord right there. It doesn't take that long. And once it's all charged up, it pairs with your phone, kind of walks you through it and really makes sure you're doing it the proper way. So this is where we go back to sort of episode 137 about the scientific debate about this target engagement. Does transcutaneous vagal nerve stimulation actually allow the electricity, either auricular or cervical, to actually reach its goal? So there's a lot of cited reviews that lay out the methodological pitfalls of these devices, small sample sizes, inconsistent sham data. So sham data is basically, I'm going to give you this, and when you click it, you'll feel something. It's like vibrating, but it's not actually sending electrical signals. Now, it's tough to deliver a sham electrical signal. When you try the Truvaga, you definitely feel electricity. I mean, it's like literally making my neck, tense up if I don't have those electrodes right at the right place. So it's difficult. So if somebody handed me one that was just vibrating and not delivering that signal, I would know immediately that, oh, okay, I've got a sham. I'm in the control group of this research study because this whole thing is just buzzing around. It's not delivering to me electrical signal like I expected it to. So when you actually look at these devices, what you often see is sort of mixed results, both in terms of sleep, but also in terms of all the things that they tend to use these things for. Heart rate variability, stress and relaxation. There's a lot of different things that individuals can use with these devices. Migraine has been looked at in certain studies. So cognitive sensory performance and whatever. So I tried it out. I did a 5 minute session, I believe, or 3 minute session, 5 minute session. And I was able to get the device up to the highest intensity, which is 10. Started off with it on my left side, found that on my right side, it just worked a little bit better without getting that sort of muscle contraction artifact that was uncomfortable, but not painful. It just felt like I was having like a little bit of a spasm of a muscle in my neck and jaw. So what is it trying to do? It's trying to deliver sort of a non-invasive signal to that vagal nerve to engage it to help an individual get more calm or more relaxed in a way that is direct electrical stimulation versus, okay, maybe before you go to bed, turning out lights, meditation, breath work, prayer. There's lots of ways to turn down the vagal nerve. This is a way that's basically saying, forget the active component. You just sit there and stick this thing on your neck and it will, passively do that. Like you don't have to do anything. Like it's going to bring you down. So VNS is real. Vagal nerve stimulation is a real thing. Targeting it non-invasively, I would describe it as being sort of real-ish. Whether this is hitting the mark in terms of what you needed to do as a consumer is really where we get sort of into the unsettled science part of it. So let's start with the pros. There is evidence that supports these devices, and you can obviously look on the web pages and find all those. There are sham-controlled human studies that show that cervical, and generally the way you do it is you kind of find your cervical pulse right here, your carotid artery pulse, and then the vagal nerve is kind of very intimately tied to that blood vessel, so that you can move that sensory and cognitive performance level and measures with the right vagal nerve stimulating protocol. They have been HRV effects have been noticed in some transcutaneal vagal nerve stimulator studies. So when we look at a sleep tracker, I'm wearing an Aura ring right now. I usually have my Withings device on. You've got a Fitbit Jawbone. Oh God, I just dated myself with that reference. Jawbone. Do they even exist anymore? Jawbone. Whoa, okay. We're back to 2003, I think there. So, if you're using some sort of sleep tracker, you're probably using some sort of device that's using heart rate variability as a surrogate for sleep tracking. So and those devices we've talked about before are very good at measuring heart rate variability. So you can do these kinds of studies, and there have been studies that have shown that heart rate variability can be influenced by using Truvaga. I actually tried to do the experiment myself. Again, I'm not a big fan of what one person's experience. I just was the expert reviewer for an article about magnesium. I love magnesium. I'm a fan of magnesium. I take magnesium every night. But the author of this was writing an article about magnesium for sleep, but then also sharing her own experiences about how it radically changed her sleep. It was a game changer. It makes her feel vastly more calm when she takes 100 milligrams of magnesium, which is like 35 almonds. I mean, give me a break. So I don't care about her writing about that. That's perfectly fine. I think we have to be very careful in terms of generalizing it. And this is what's going to happen with you too. So there's my disclaimer. I've got plenty of devices that measure heart rate variability. And I'm recording this podcast on a pretty typical day. I have a lot going on, maybe a little bit more stress than normal, which I thought was perfect because this is what we're trying to figure out, right? Use the heart rate variability devices to kind of get a sense of where my HRV was. Did the Truvaga session, actually did two, saw really no meaningful change in my HRV and really no meaningful change in the way I feel. Now, that's a very different thing from using Truvaga every night right before you go to bed because you're saying, well, wait a minute, Chris, you just said you take magnesium. So when you take your magnesium supplement every night, do you feel a big difference? No. But I do think that it's sort of creating a better environment and a better foundation for my sleep. So I feel a whole lot better about products like Truvaga that don't, this is radically changing my sleep. I was a sleep disaster until I started using. I don't care for that. I mean, I'm sure that's somebody's experience out there. I think the vast majority of people are not going to get to that level with a device like that. But I do think taking your melatonin supplement, dimming your lights, cooling your bed, reading a quiet book, doing some quiet meditations, and using something like Truvaga right before you go to bed every night might actually have some sort of benefits that we're not really aware of. So HRV have been shown that, and then more importantly, non-invasive VNS as a category has shown efficacy in rigorous trials for some conditions, headache indications with a device like Gamma Core, and this actually included sham-controlled devices as well too. So the con evidence is really the field itself acknowledges that the mechanisms and central effects are being mapped out and not particularly straightforward. The biggest scientific critique, and I'll quote this from a paper, is electrical sensations on the neck or ear do not equal proven vagus nerve engagement, especially when stimulation, location, waveform, and sham design are loose. The credible versus bogus framing is now common in public-facing expert discussions, even if you keep your sources more academic in the episode. So to me, I think this is all really about what are we talking about when we're talking about these vagus nerve stimulators and trying to keep these things academic can be tough because even the devices themselves make it difficult for us to figure these things out. So as we bridge to insomnia, most VNS devices or transcutaneal VNS devices work, but they're not really what I would describe as being insomnia first treatments, leading to more calm, leading to a better state of, vagal nerve activation, parasympathetic nerve activation. So I think even if vagal nerve stimulation does shift towards more autonomic tone, insomnia outcomes are really not guaranteed. So if it helps, it's probably reducing somatic arousal or making that sort of downshifting ritual you have in the evening better. But I don't think we're really going to look at this as sort of flipping a magical switch. So if Truvaga is the passive nudge of your parasympathetic nervous system, the Muse Athena is probably a little bit more of an active device that's sort of allowing you to understand what the manifestations are of increased parasympathetic activity, being not calm, and allowing sort of that biofeedback mechanism to control it. So the Muse S Athena, I had the Muse S for a long time. What I'm wearing right now is the Muse S Athena. Athena, they look very similar, kind of a soft strap you can sleep in, combines EEG and sort of blood oxygenation proxy, how much blood flow is kind of happening up there, and using that as a guide to sleep training, using it as a guide to sleep monitoring. So this device can be worn at night as a way to sort of sense sleep throughout the night and get a little bit more of that direct information about your brain activity, at least frontal lobe EEG activity, that a device on your finger or on your wrist just simply can't get. There are registered clinical trials in progress looking at midlife women's sleep disturbances. I was out at the sleep meeting in Seattle. A lot of people are interacting with Muse and Interaxon because it's such a great way to sort of measure lots of people and get some kind of data related to sleep and EEG for research protocols. I was talking to a guy at Walter Reed who's very interested in using this platform for data collection versus the HRV ring wrist worn device, which is not the best, look at sleep that you can get. So when you're looking at these devices, these brain wearing or brain sensing headbands tend to be an accepted way of sort of down regulating stress. And again, not really billed as an insomnia first endpoint, but as soon as I saw these devices come out, I really felt like this is a really practical way for helping people engage in down regulating their parasympathetic activity in a more meaningful and direct way than saying, hey, you all should relax, maybe do some breath work and meditation. For a lot of people, they don't know how to do breath work. They don't know how to do meditation. So me suggesting that they do something that they don't know how to do to get their insomnia under control actually makes them more anxious and more upset. So I think that insomnia improves when patients develop agency over their arousal. We talk about this all the time. It's being in bed, happy to be there. You don't have control over me. If I fall asleep, I don't fall asleep. I don't care. I have agency over my arousal. So we're trying to direct them to help them understand that you can foster this agency, this ability to be calm and not think of it as a trait. Well, I got an active mind, Dr. Winter, so you need to help me because I got this active mind that I guess you don't have, that other people don't have. But my mind gets really active when I go to bed, so I just can't shut it off. So that's why I take all the pills. Oh, you can build that as a skill. And I think that the Muse does a wonderful job of being able to help people do that. And once people start getting more control and agency over their ability to settle, I think that has a tremendous power over their ability to sleep when they feel that control. Control reduces anxiety. The other thing with the Muse S Athena is that it's got something called deep sleep boost. And now we're back to what we were talking about a couple episodes ago with the Calm app telling us that there is a 432 hertz frequency that causes instant deep sleep when you hear it. So this device also has a feature where during the night, if you've got your earbuds in, it's going to play certain sounds when you're in deep sleep to facilitate more deep sleep. I think this is where we go a little bit beyond maybe what science can back. I don't have a problem with it. Again, if somebody says, oh yeah, I'm wearing it, and ever since I had the deep sleep booster mode on, remember the Walkman bass booster? I used to love that. Like, did anybody listen to their Walkman and not engage bass booster? No, because that would be insane. So why would you not engage Deep Sleep Booster with the Muse S? I have no idea. So I don't think it's a real big problem, but I think having things whispered and tones played in your ears throughout the night is a little bit beyond where science is at the moment, and maybe a little bit of an oversimplification of what's going on. But if you disagree and say, Chris, I've been using the deep sleep booster for some time and it's just radically changed my life. Here we are 3 years in with this thing and it's a game changer. I really want to hear about that. So let's flip the clock forward. Insomnia, the night is over. Now it's time to wake up, but you're stressed out that you're going to oversleep your alarm like MJ that we talked about at the beginning of the episode. And now your insomnia, now your anxiety is worse because what if you don't get up to catch the flight, get to work on time, make it to the gym? That's where Pavlok comes in. It is a little wrist-worn device. This is the Pavlok 2. There is a newer one. I'm going to reach out to them and see if I can get a hold of the newer one. We'll share that in an upcoming episode. Very simple little silicone wristband, and this little device in it pops out. And it's got, like you see, a little hole right there where you can charge it right up. And then once it's all charged up and ready to go, you put it in the wristwatch. And this device, you can set all kinds of interesting alarms with it that will initially chirp. And then later on, they will vibrate. And then if you're not responding to the device, it will give you a little electric shock. And I have used this device for years for people who really struggle to wake up because it is very difficult to sleep through electricity so fine going through your wrist at 6:30 in the morning when you're time to wake up. So I really feel like this device, when successful, can really help people to overcome their oversleeping fear, that sort of bedtime dread and hyperarousal, their doom scrolling, their if I don't wake up, I'll blow my day. And you're like, well, how does it affect doom scrolling? Well, you can set the device up that if you spend too much time on your phone, you get a little shock. Or if you don't go to the gym, you get a little shock. So, and not only can you set it up with the actual app, which I have on my phone, but you can also just at any point push the top of the Pavlok and hold it. Ow! And you get two shocks. And I just gave myself two shocks at the highest voltage. And it's not pleasant. It's not great. So you can imagine going to bed thinking, okay, if I don't wake up to my regular alarm, 5 minutes later, I'm going to get a shock. So go through the night and the beep, beep, beep of your alarm goes off. Now, instead of ignoring it, you start engaging a part of your brain that is, hey, you better get up and get going, get to the gym, get to work, get your kid out the door because electrocution is coming. So now we take anxiety about not waking up and it's transformed into almost a Pavlovian. I'm sure that's where Pavlov came from. Get up or you get shocked. So now, I mean, I imagine there's a similar situation going on in some sort of military boot camp where when you hear the horn, you better get up and get dressed and be standing with your toes on that line before that sergeant comes in and she starts yelling at you. Because if you don't, worse things are going to happen. So very quickly, you start to develop the right habit. And my guess is, and based upon experience with other patients who've used Pavlov, they don't need it so much after a while because they get the right sort of mechanism sort of put in place as time passes. So there is a newer Pavlok that is a ring that I've not had a chance to demo if you don't want this thing kind of big on your wrist. Clinical trial registration for smoking cessations there. I don't really see a lot of research being done with Pavlok in and around sleep, but I can tell you this, you don't need research to know that if you push this button, I'm going to do it one more time. Ow. And I think if you do it twice, it's even worse. Mm, mm. God, it's painful. Yep. So I don't think you need research to say that this does electrocute you and you can set it. And for people like MJ, that might be the difference between getting up on time and not. So I think that all of these devices are things that could be paired in your world to help you sleep a little bit better. So when we think about any device that we use for sleep, is the tool becoming something that supports our sleep? Is it something that works against our sleep? Is there credible evidence that it does affect sleep? And if there isn't, can we still make a benefit? Can we still make an argument that there still could be benefit in terms of setting up a great foundation for sleep, even if it's not knocking you out? And I also like to kind of throw in there, if you lose your device, whichever one it might be, how much anxiety is that contributing to? Oh my gosh, Chris, I can't find my Truvaga. I can't sleep without it. I never think we want to be in a place where we feel dependency on any kind of device. We're using the Muse to collect data about our sleep. We're using it to help us sort of control our ability to wind down. Do I sleep with my Muse? No, but I've learned over time, and I'll post some data. I'll show you. I just did a Muse session right before this podcast. I'll show you what my session looks like. I'm actually pretty good at settling myself. And this device kind of proves that. Like I've developed a skill of using muses over the years to kind of settle myself. So that's kind of where we want to be without it. So take a look at the data around these devices. I think it's really important, particularly when you're looking at vagal nerve stimulators and the sham controlled studies. The HRV data, I think, is really, really interesting, and there's some really good PubMed studies about that. The one that I was thinking about recently was a study from 2025 called Non-Invasive Auricular Vagus Nerve Stimulation Decreases Heart Rate Variability Independent of Caloric Load. I was just reading that one before I started the podcast. Auricular, this one attaches to the ear instead of to the neck. And so you might find that to be kind of a helpful thing as well too. So that's it for the podcast. What do you think about these devices? If you tried the Muse, if you tried Pavlok, if you tried the Truvaga, special big thanks to all these companies for sending me their devices. Use them, but use them intelligently. And I hope the podcast helps you do that. So that's it for the Sleep Unplugged podcast. MJ, I hope you get your sleep inertia under control. And until next week, sleep well.